So we're all good to go. So we're off. Andy and me are off on the pre-penultimate leg of the mighty SWCP. So Chesil Beach to Lulworth Cove. So Weymouth to Lulworth Cove. We're already parked up there, and it's a nice breeze, but the sun is out, so it should be a fantastic day's walking. And just to set the scene, here's my walking muchacho, Andy.
Good morning.
And he's holding my pole, but we won't go into that. So off Andy and I set towards Weymouth, enjoying the end of the fleet as it spilt into Portland Harbour, and the harbour itself, the former naval base, with 4 massive stone-built breakwaters, apparently nearly 3 miles in length, which is astonishing. We strode on towards Sandsfoot Castle, enjoyed a few moments there, built by Henry VIII as a defensive site, and then through the prosperous suburbs of Southlands, where I had a few thoughts. And Andy and me are walking through the residential streets of Weymouth at the moment. This is a road called Bellevue, and indeed it is. It's deeply handsome houses, and obviously Weymouth's elite live here. They're so posh they don't even have a pavement. It's a grassy verge, which is, I suppose, very comely. Black sand, that one's called. That's a new one on me. So we get to the Burning Cliff later on, so we'll see some black shale in the Kimmeridge clays, the marvellous geological formation from the Jurassic. This is called the Underbarn House, this one here, and it's absolutely ginormous. So that puts the O in ostentatious. So we're amongst Weymouth's finest. Yard of Portland. Magnificent that it is, besmirched by the Bibby Stockholm. I'm walking fans, so it's not the fort. Weymouth. With a pointless gun, aimed inland. A bit worrying. What the good folk of Dorchester ever done? What is handsome harbour, and it really is handsome, is the old harbour in Weymouth. And lots of lovely mercantile buildings. On this side, probably the officers' houses as they used to be. Lovely portico. There's a code for crabbing apparently in Weymouth, which I like. It's very helpful. Anyway, just a quick comment on Weymouth Old Harbour. It is lush, very pleasant, and very well conserved as well. I mean, these cottages here to my immediate left, these places here, are very comely. You kind of want to live in one, wouldn't you? Except people like me walking by every day would probably drive you insane. It's Bowleys I'm looking at over there. Once we get to there, there's a holiday camp there, and I think a little bit further beyond is Ringstead and Osmington. A deserted medieval village to look forward to. But first, the Georgian Esplanade of Weymouth. Well, walking fans, we're on the front at Weymouth, having just strolled along the superb Esplanade. And here's a first. These are beach huts, but not as we know it. These are beach huts without a back and sides or even a door. That's a new variation on the beach hut front, and I like it very much. Okay, well, Weymouth's beach hut game is really substantial. Look at these suckers, absolute, the creme de la creme beach huts. Well, it's an incredible place. It's obviously up for redevelopment. As Andy's just quite rightly pointed out, very Art Deco, and very much in need of redevelopment, but no doubt it will be. And here's a handsome view. We've basically walked from way over there, Isle of Portland, about halfway along the strip between the Isle of Portland and Weymouth, and we've come all the way around there. Probably done about 5, possibly 6 miles to here, Bowleys, and very pleasant and easy walking it's been so far. Has to be said, walking fans, that from Bowleys Cove onwards, things warm up a bit on the up and down front. Bring it on! This is more like it. Anyway, we're on the Dorset coastline, and we've walked out of Weymouth to the north, and we're now heading pretty much due east. Lulworth Cove is our final destination, and we're on a very humpy bumpy bit of terrain here, classic Dorset cliff landslip territory. Nicely dry underfoot, which is great because it would have a high slip potential, this path. But I better stop talking about that sort of thing, because I know what happens when I say things like that. I've just been posed a geological question by my walking companion, and the answer is yes indeed. This rock is the source rock of the oil and gas beneath the North Sea. So the Kimmeridge clay is where all that hydrocarbon was formed when it was deposited, or after it's deposited, and it moves upwards through the subsurface and gets trapped. And when the conditions are right, we can stick a drill hole down and get the gas or the oil. So yeah, we're on the very geology that provides wealth to the fucking oil companies that are fleecing us all right now with the price of diesel and petrol. This is the first time I can ever recall seeing a grid reference, and it's a 6-figure grid reference. And more than that, it's got the 100-kilometre grid square identifier of SY on there. I'm so pleased. Well, this is Hardgraft now. We're going up towards White Nose, our high point for today. Big chalk headland. Can't wait. Bring it on. So looking back now at the whole walk so far, probably 11-12 miles in now, something like that, and it's been splendid. Easy going for the first few hours. Heading north from Chesil through Weymouth. Things are livening up a bit now as we start ascending. Good test for the dead cat microphone on my Sony, which I'm filming with at the moment. Bloody marvellous. I have to say, bloody marvellous. I wonder if this is one of these high points you get to where you can see what lies ahead. And the answer is no. No. Got a bit further to go before we hit the very summit of White Nose, and when we do, we should get our first view of the end of the trip at close quarters. Can't quite see Lulworth Cove car park from here, but boy is this a view and a half. At the Coast Guard cottages, detour off to the right and go to the tip of the headland. You'll find a bench there which gives, I think, Andy agreed, the most superlative view that you see anywhere on the mighty southwest coast path. And believe you me, you see plenty of magnificent views, but this one takes some beating. It's difficult to put into words exactly what it is doing this all means. It's a big personal achievement, big physical achievement for Andy and me. That there's no doubt. But there's something deeper about it. It's this sort of connectedness with nature, connectedness with yourself, the sort of the physicality of walking. It's the kind of thing that us humans were designed to do. Okay, my running days are definitely over, but my walking days aren't. And it's It's just magnificent to just stroll along in these beautiful, I say unspoilt, I mean they're touched by human hand in terms of farming, but what feels like a close to nature as you're ever going to get in the British Isles. And the beauty of the coastal scenery is unimpeachable. Is that the word? Unbeatable? Unsomething. It's just fantastic. And we're on our way towards Durdledore and Bat's Head. And before that, we've got an obelisk to deal with. Well, quite magnificent walk from White Not The through to Bats and Swire Head, Middle Bottom, West Bottom, and the immortally named Scratchy Bottom, which I've been up. Andy didn't believe me, but I showed him on the ordnance map that it really exists. So we're at the business end of today's walk, which has just got better and better the further we've gone, and at the moment it's in that sort of slot of walks that is right up there, is the most magnificent on the overall magnificent coastal path. So it's beautiful, it's so easy on the eye, this rolling countryside, chalk downland, sheer cliffs. And Andy said earlier on, he's quite right, lovely and open walking, so you don't feel hemmed in by hedges or barbed wire or anything. Nice and open and just glorious. So not far from Durdledore now, I can just see the very top of it, and the pre-penultimate walk is nearly over. I'm feeling something, I'm not quite sure what. Andy's just bigged up this obelisk in front of us, as I mentioned in previous comments. We're approaching this obelisk, and he asked me, he said, do you know what that pointed bit on the very top of the obelisk is called? And I didn't, and I was racking my building terminology, which extends to one word, which is, or two actually. I know lintel and I know quoin, and that's about it. Looks very concretey to me, it doesn't look like local stone. So Andy's examining the obelisk, and we both felt a presence. And for those of you who know us, you will know what we're referring to when we say presence. So Dorset thoughts, muchacho?
Dorset remains my favourite county. Cornwall's great, North Devon's great, but Dorset remains my favourite county, and this only just adds to that. This end of the county that I don't get to see very much, but it's absolutely stunningly beautiful.
State pension soon, lads.
18 days.
I hate to say it, walking fans, but I'm joining Andy on the downward decline to death. Old age pensioners, both of us soon. He's already is one.
I'm officially there.
He officially is.
As of last April.
Anyway, we're going to move on because some civilian walkers are approaching at a high rate of knots.
I think we just let them overtake.
Andy says let them overtake. His competitive juices have ebbed.
Up at the age of 67.
Whereas only on the walking trail do I get like this. But I do get like it.
Dry up when you reach 67.
I have these moments of wanting to nip in front of people. I did earlier on. And it's all about getting a bench. Well, we're at that roller coaster part of the walk today. So from White Not The fantastic viewpoint just now, we're now walking across a series of big chalk dry valleys called bottoms. A little slip there, walking fans. And these dry valleys, or bottoms as they're called around here, are quite deep. So you drop all the way down in, which is what we're doing now, and the walkers in front of us have done, and you reach the bottom of the bottom, and then you go up to the other side. And like all videos, we'll look at this on screen and think, oh, that's not very much. Trust me, walking fans, it is. That's a slog. And I think we've got at least 3 of these to do before journey's end at the Cove of Lulworth. Still going up on Middle Bottom, and it's bloody marvellous. Going up on the whole is my preferred option. Wouldn't want to be doing it all the time, but we're going to get to the top of this sucker, and when we get to it, I'm pretty sure we come straight back bloody down again. Well, got to the top of the valley called Middle Bottom, so we're up on the top of the watershed, and I'm going back down already into the next marvellous valley. This one looks even more of a chasm, and handsome as handsome can be. I'm feeling humbled by almost overwhelmed actually by the mighty southwest coast pass at this point, because when I've climbed that next hill there to take me up onto the top of Swire Head, lovely chalk, almost vertical cliff, when we get there, Andy and I, us two, the 2 old ramblers, the ponytailed pensioner and donks, would have walked 600 miles from Minehead. Humbled, daunted, proud, amazed, can't believe I've done it. Andy and I have walked 600 miles to this headland. This is Swire Head, and we're 300 feet or so above sea level. Walked 600 miles, got about a mile to go to Lulworth Cove, and wow, I can't find words to describe this feeling of satisfaction of being at this point.
Yeah, just 30 to go to complete the whole 630 total mileage. So nearly done. 2 days more walking in about an hour, 45 minutes.
We're within sniffing distance at the end of the walk. It's now 20 past 4, so maybe another hour. We'll see. What an amazing day, and what a beautiful coastline. Well, this magnificent dry valley here in the chalk has the memorable name of Scratchy Bottom. And this little narrow gully here, I used to come up it with my students, and it looks like the sort of the various police that police these things have stopped you coming up there. I used to bloody love it. It used to be one of the highlights of the day. So there it is. I used to bring students up that little gully, and as far as I was concerned, it's a perfectly safe thing to do. There used to be a cable, a rope cable, a wire cable that helps you up, but that is the bottommost part of Scratchy Bottom, and we used to come up there, think nothing of it. That's the headland of Doodledore on the Man of War Cove side, and it's also those set of cliffs there. You can see the very distinctive narrow beds of limestone, pretty much vertical, and back in the day that's where Andy and me stupidly climbed up. That's it down there, Andy. That's where I led you astray, and we thought we'd go and examine the Purbeck marble for some inexplicable reason, 100 foot high up a cliff, and we scrambled up there, got up, realised what a stupid thing we'd done, and regretted it, and sort of slid down. Really, the potential for doing ourselves more than a serious mischief was there. So that was astonishingly, walking fans, I know difficult for you to believe it, 50 years ago when we did that. So 50 bloody, well, I think it'll be 50 years ago next year. It's 1974, I'm pretty certain. And on this late September day, last Friday in September 2023, There are hundreds of folk out enjoying themselves. But I didn't like it at all. Far too many. I like my solitude when I'm walking. I like being with Andy. I don't want anybody else around, particularly when I'm climbing up a hill and puffing and panting and generally being a bit all over the place. And I love enjoying what I enjoy, which is the peace and quiet of the walk, and that was far from it, and it's probably my least favourite quarter of a mile I've done. Lots of stupid conversations around me by people who just can't keep their mouths shut. Far too many aggressive dogs, that vile kind of pit bull terrier thing, loads of those. Oh, but he's only playing, as he tears pounds of flesh from your legs. They absolutely should never have been bred, and they're bred for one type of human being. The very people who have them are the very people who should not be allowed to have them. Okay, that's my rant for today. That quarter of a mile up from Durdledore, a low light of today's walk, and it was very much going from the sublime views of that incredible bit of coast. Well, very much at the end of our pre-penultimate day's walk on the mighty southwest coast path, and we're back at Lulworth after a roller coaster walk up and over the cliffs from Osmington Mills really onwards, although the real fun doesn't start until you get to White Noth, which I insist on calling White Nother. You got to see it written down, yeah, it's funny then. I've probably overdone that joke, but that doesn't normally stop me. So we're back at the car park at Lulworth, and we're at a legendary Bennett location. It has to be said, I'm pretty certain that in this area, dead ahead of me as Andy's very kindly doing the gate for me, maybe round about where that black Polo is parked. I remember back in the day, Dad's blue Corsair parked about there, and we came down for a day trip from home, Colbert Heath, and goodness knows why, but a young Simon of maybe 5 or 6, maybe I'm doing a disservice, maybe he was about 18, I don't know, he's quite young, had what can only be described as a mother and father of a tantrum right about here, the glorious sun. He went bonkers, tears, stamping at the feet, throwing things, no idea why. To this day, probably he doesn't either. And we've done what can only be described as a long walk. I reckon we've done about 16 miles today.
Slightly discouraging when you look at the milestone, it says Weymouth 10.5.
Oh, I don't believe that little rubbish. Those milestones have an existential problem, as I've said before.
That must be a different Weymouth.
We went past 4 in a place called Polruan, back down in Cornwall, that all said it was 6¼ miles to where we were going. Well, how can 4 separate milestones, all some distance apart, say the same distance, I ask you, walking fans? Anyway, we're back at the car. That was a fantastic day's walk, and we both survived it. Andy's hobbling. He's walking gingerly, but he is a ginger, so what do you expect? Just did. And we're back in the bosom of the car park. What a great day.